everyone. We are so excited to dive in with you today. My name is Brianna Wallace.
And I'm Autumn Gupta.
And we are the co-founders of Justice in June. So who are we? I am a recent grad of the University of Southern California. I graduated last year, class of 2019, and I studied business administration with a dance minor and an entrepreneurship emphasis. And now I work full-time in the beauty industry as a brand manager for a professional hair product company. So I get to oversee product development, innovation, portfolio optimization, and when I'm not doing that, I'm working on Justice in June.
And I am also a recent grad. I just graduated this past May of class of 2020. It took me a little bit longer to figure out what I wanted to do than Bree, even though we both started at the same time. And my background is in environmental science and geodesign, so I'm really interested in working with geospatial data and satellite imagery. But this year, again, graduating into a pandemic was a bit challenging. And so I'm currently, my full-time role is teaching 8th grade science to middle schoolers north of my hometown. So I'm back in the great state of Missouri in Kansas City. And when I'm not working full-time, I am working on Justice in June. So this is very much a labor of love and our full-time hobby, as we like to put it.
So how did this all start? It started, honestly, with a conversation. It was catalyzed by the murder of George Floyd, and that resonated very deeply with me. I went from a place of desensitization and apathy to feeling completely wounded and hurt by what was happening to people who look like me and are part of the Black community. And so in doing this, I felt like I needed to say something, I needed to get it out, and to also communicate to friends, loved ones who are close to me, who are following my social media, and see, here's a tangible person, and this is how this incident and many others like it are affecting their lives. And so I created a video that I put out explaining how it was affecting me. And Autumn at the time did not have social media. And so I shared it with my parents and I shared it with her. And so from there grew a conversation that we had 2.5 hours on a Saturday night discussing what we saw happening in front of our eyes in our communities, in the world, and how distraught we could be, but also how we wanted to make a difference and see things actually change.
Yeah, and exactly from that, I remember, it was everywhere on the news, the murder of George Floyd, so it was so in your face that you could not ignore it. And then Bree did share with me a video she posted to her Instagram, and there was one particular line at the very end where she says, "If I was the one who was killed, what would you be doing? Would you be doing anything different than what you're doing now?" Which was, just posting videos of what you ate that day or of your pet, or would you be actively using your platform to speak out against injustice and to say, hey, this is not going to fly under my watch, and I'm going to do something about it to make a difference so that we don't have to watch another innocent life be taken. And for me, when she asked that question, that was really convicting because she's my best friend. Of course, I would be doing something different. Like my life would have been completely changed by her death. And so I realized that I needed to do more. And the other piece of that too was I knew that I didn't know. I am a woman of color, but I'm not a part of the Black community. And so I realized that in this moment and at that time, my job was to listen and to learn, to try to bear some of that and to understand what she was going through. And so from that conversation it was a lot of me just listening to Bree explain and talk through, like, this is what it feels like. This is what the impact is on my emotional well-being right now. And just being able to share that with her, like knowing that I couldn't really do anything specifically to lessen the burden, but I could be there, sit with her in that dark place and say, hey, I'm here for you and I'm going to listen. I'm going to try to support you any way I can. And then the other thing that I realized was there was a lot of resources that started to be circulated of like lists that you could look at for, hey, if you need to educate yourself, here you go. Or here's 100 podcasts and movies and other things that you can do or read or watch to start being a part of the solution instead of the problem. But much to my chagrin, as an educated woman, I didn't recognize probably 75% of the different materials being recommended or the books or the articles or even the activists, the authors, the people that are working in the racial justice space I was unfamiliar with. And so I decided that for the month of June, I would just spend 30 days at the drawing board, ground zero of where do I need to begin to learn so that I can then start acting and start meaningfully contribute to being a part of the solution and not the problem. And I'm very type A. I love a schedule. Bree knows that I love a schedule and I love a plan. And so I put together 3 different options: 10 minutes, 25 minutes, and 45 minutes of works that you could read, things that you could watch, or podcasts you could listen to every single day. And whatever that fit in your schedule, that's the plan you would follow. And so I aggregated from different resources that were circulating. I tried to look and find not just the ones that were popular, but ones of people who have been working in this space. So authors and activists whose voices need to be elevated because they are part of the Black community, or this is what they study. They're an expert in this. And then I asked Bree, again, I don't want to be part of the problem. I was like, do you mind lending your perspective as someone who is part of the Black community to have oversight and review all the different resources I've pulled together? Because I don't want any of these to misrepresent what Black Lives Matter is trying to do. I want it to progress the movement forward. And if I invite my friends or my family to join with me for that month, I want to make sure that we're all using resources that are the best for us to try to learn and to try to unlearn behaviors or practices we might already have. And so, of course, Bree graciously agreed. And that is the work that we did together that became Justice in June. So it started as a Google Doc, and then Bree, you want to touch on how it grew from there?
Yeah. And so from there, it essentially went viral. For me, it was something that I could lead people to. I understood, and as a compassionate person, where people were coming from when they said, how can I do better? What can I do to help? And a lot of the answers were already still existing, but people felt overwhelmed, and that put them in a state of paralysis of not even knowing where to start. And Justice in June began as a starting place to work towards that allyship, to support the Black community. And it was something that people were looking for, and they didn't even realize that they needed. Exactly. And it was a stepping stone. And so from there, it got a lot of traction, over 1.1 million impressions on Twitter alone in the first week. And we've raised almost $18,000 now. And we have several publications, including the Washington Post, which helped to gain traction. And so now Justice in June is on a website, justiceinjune.org, where there's a slightly updated version of that same framework, all about giving that starting place. And so what we're going to dive into today is how to take that emotional response that you might be feeling. As young people, we see everything going around in the world around us, and sometimes we don't feel like we have the impactful change or the power to contribute to impactful change that we can. But we need to focus on the world around us, our world, and take that energy and take that fuel and create something that can push the needle a little bit further.
Exactly. And we also just want to emphasize that we're regular folks. We have no special training or background in the work we're doing. We just, again, starting from a friendship, starting from a real human connection of, hey, this is a problem and I want to try to fix it. And so we really want to encourage you in that. And we hope that that's kind of the lens that you can work through the next few videos with. And we're really looking forward to our live session in a few weeks.